So, thank you very much. It was nearly a historical day today, because I thought Paulus Neef will be here, Peter Kabel was meant to be here, and me. And this would have been historically the first time all the three of us would have been in one room. But it didn't happen for, I don't know for what reason. So, but why is that? Why is so many ex-internet people now showing up here? I think the common line in between is innovation. Because why I was an internet pioneer was my curiosity for the future. And so it's still the same. I'm still into innovation. The topics has slightly changed. Even my knowledge of media is very helpful for what we have in mind. And I'm here today not to show you a closed and finished project. I'm here today to introduce you our vision, our idea, and of course the Club of Marrakesh. So, and I have also to be very honest that it's not so long time I'm interested in these topics. I have not invented Greenpeace. I was not very well known for a green activist, but in this curiosity for the future, I was in 2006 part of the board of Deutsche Telekom, and they're responsible for innovation again. And we had this innovation radar, and all of a sudden, for those future topics we looked at, global warming and climate change and all these eco-problems came up on the windshield. And then I had the privilege, 2006, to attend one of the famous lectures of Al Gore, The Inconvenient Truth. I saw the movie, I think we all saw it. And then we thought, wow, we have really to start changing things. So 2006, we already looked at this, what we called crisis. And ever since 2006, the crisis didn't get smaller. It's more crisis than ever. We have not only an eco-crisis, we have a deep and fundamental financial crisis, we have an economical crisis. So crisis, crisis, crisis means what? So what to do now? So after I quit Deutsche Telekom in 2007, I realized one of my dream projects I always had in mind, building a place in an interesting city where the brightest minds of the planets can meet, get together, discuss, sharing ideas, and so on. And we went to Marrakesh. Marrakesh is a very symbolic place. I don't know who of you ever been in Marrakesh so far. So for the rest, you should go there and see. What you can see there symbolically is that there is a huge clash at these days between this old Marrakesh and the very traditional culture there and modernity, because Marrakesh is also boomtown. It certainly was our first step into what is the Islam in reality versus what is the rest. You can see there poverty and richness. You can see there the most extreme polarization of that. You can see really on a red light in the middle of the town a donkey car next to a Porsche Cayenne. So there is power of this clash. And then you have this still existing spirituality versus this really dramatically fast-coming materialism. And also this is a clash that you can see there. So, and then we did what we had in mind. We started our first project there, Diana Yella, which is an old, very, very small, little palace in the middle, in the heart of the old part of Marrakesh, the Medina. And we restored that palace, and we did it in a very unusual way, even for the Marrakechis. I did not want to use power tools to redo that, because this house was built 200 years ago, so there was no power tools at the time. And to make sure that we not forget all this knowledge to build a house with no power tools, I set this little hurdle to the project. And this is the outcome. The opening was in the beginning of 2008. So for us, it was a real experiment to do that. We had no clue if this is a really cool idea, if it will work out, if people were coming. But since these 2 years, we did an incredible and really amazing experience with this project. And we had amazing people visiting us. And here is what we do there. We are holding workshops in a very strict atmosphere. So it's like the headquarter office in Bonn of Deutsche Telekom, very similar, as you can see. These workshops are always like inventing the future. So we're developing future scenarios, we're sharing it with decision makers, and then we discuss what we can or should do. So, and then we thought after the first year, and it was really amazing who have visited us and these encounters we had there, and the projects that were born in these 12 months are really incredible. So we said, okay, we have to take this one step further. We have to institutionalize this a little bit more. And so the scheme of what we're doing and what we've done in the past is like, okay, if we really want to change the world, we need those guys, those creators and innovators who develop these visions, these products, these technologies, people like you. So most of the time, these guys need that. And also most of the time, if money has found these guys, or these guys have found money, everybody thinks now everything is already in place. We don't think so. We think there is a third important element to the whole thing, which is a proper and professional marketing. In my career, I have seen so many bloody cool ideas who failed because of that. So I think this is as important as the other bubble. And we see us in the middle of this triangle. So what we're doing is we're doing the trend research, we're doing the moderation, the conferencing, the networking, the financing, and we follow the implementation of the projects and help with coaching and so on. So to attract the first group, we have invented this format of the Club of Marrakesh. We're doing these conferences. We're moderating this community. We're doing PR. And of course, we're using social media and viral tools to make us public. The money comes from investors. So I think an hour before somebody asked here on stage who in the audience want money. And I waved, but I wasn't seen, so I wave again. We always need that fuel. But the money does not come only purely from investors. It also comes from companies, which is a very interesting thing, to share risk, knowledge, distribution potential, and so on with larger companies. And of course, institutions can be foundations or whatever. They have some purposes, and we can offer some projects, and from the private sector. And marketing is not only communication or branding or whatever. We have in our network a few ex-CEOs, and they all share more or less the same life situation. They're off business, they are bored, they are rich, they are frustrated, and they like to help young entrepreneurs with their entrepreneurial experience, which is also very helpful. So we look on the following things. We look, and I know every one of these 4 topics is worth spending days discussing it, but we look, of course, of the big topic energy. We look every day more on the topic water, because we are convinced that water will become the first of these big issues that we really will be confronted in about 10 to 15 years from now. I mean, it has already started. I don't know who of you read last week that the River Jordan dried out, for example. The biblical River Jordan dried out. It's not only the Lake Aral. We have now many other bad examples for that. We look into buildings, and the collection of buildings is something we call cities, so it's more cities and buildings, because here we think we have a very huge potential of quick wins. Because if you see how we treat buildings in terms of energy optimization, waste, water, and so on, I think there is a huge potential that we can quickly go and do things. And of course, we're looking on every kind of media that help us creating the necessary awareness for our activities and those problems, of course. We try to understand this is a dynamic process. I don't know if somebody is really believing that he has a full and deep understanding of that complexity. Certainly I don't. But what we set up is a think tank in a classical scheme. That means we have about 69 topics we're following, and we're measuring constantly, and we're doing a trend survey on these topics. They're all moving targets. So I think this think tank is not about designing a new science fiction movie. It's called Rethink, because we think sometimes innovation can also be not to do something. And so here is the actual status we're in. In 2010, this is the year where we travel a lot. We do a lot of these conferences globally. We started a lecture tour just 4 weeks ago in the United States. And the goal is to create awareness and to invite those people we want to address and have in mind to join the Club of Marrakesh. And so when we looked at the problems we're facing, and we looked a little bit back in history, it seemed like societies had already some situations where decadency, degeneration, greed, and all these things had been a social problem. The little golden cow here is still alive, and we're still dancing around. This is certainly something we should not forget. And so the title of the lecture is The Seven Sins. And the Seven Sins lecture is really something provocating. We're showing a little bit the interdependencies of those problems and so on. And it has 3 parts, actually. It's the 7 sins, it's the 7 hopes, where we have globally identified cool new ideas, new innovations. And it's not only technologies, it's also social things and so on, what we show here. And then we have abstracted what we learned from the 7 hopes and created some 7 virtues or guidelines that we want to promote to decision makers for the future to be guided in, like we think, the right direction. And this is part of a strategy of 7 activities we want to make. So it's the lecture. It is a book that I'm writing, published by Random House and internationally published. I would say it's a lot of work, beginning 2011. And it's all about collaboration, because the complexity of the things we're looking at in reality is so big that we can learn from the software industry that in the late 70s discovered that linear programming of things is very limited. And so Linux was the first collaboration idea, the open source idea. Hey, let's share it, let's co-develop, and so on. Because of complexity, today, collaboration and open source is one of the mainstreams in software development because of the complexity. And we are following here the same philosophy in saying it's not about owning, it's about sharing. So this is a bit the big picture we're looking at, we're working on that. And if we're finished, we hope that the planet turned green again. And for those who were interested a little bit more in detail what we're doing, please feel free to contact us. And thank you very much.